wanted to do. My intent today is, as much as I can, to be as open and transparent about the situation that we have that occurred last night about 12:55 a.m. So I want to remember that we're only about 12 hours into this. I just left the second floor, and all the detectives that were here last night are still here. There are individuals coming and going, and there's a lot of interviews still taking place. So I just wanted to get the latest update. There are some things that I cannot share with you yet. I'll share with you why. But I did want to just try to be transparent. We did have a triple homicide in our community last night, and I think that's important to share that, be as open and transparent as I can, with respect also of the victims and their families. Okay? So what my intent is just kind of give you a brief of what we have, take a few questions, but I do apologize on the front end because there's some things I can't divulge just yet. So about 12:55 last night, there was a call of a shooting inside a residence at 429 Stallings Court. Officers responded to that scene in under a minute. Officers made entry. They located one individual and a female, were able to get her out of the residence. And there are 3 adult males that are deceased inside the residence from apparent gunshot wounds. Those males, their ages range from 30s to 60s. The reason I can't identify them right now to you all is because we have not notified all of their families and next of kin yet. We do now. Just about an hour ago, we were able to identify all 3 individuals. So we know who they are, but we have not made notifications to their families. We will send that out later today. And I would like to share that with you, but out of respect for their families, I want to make sure that we talk to their families first. We owe them that. At that point, crime scene was set up. All of the scene, the incident, is everything inside the residence. There's nothing outside. Officers were able to clear the house to make sure that there was no one else in there. We got some notification that there were some children that lived there. The children were gone. We have located them with other family members. They are safe. It does not appear that they were there when this incident occurred. That's important. One is they're all under 18. So the children are, we don't believe that at this point that they were there when this occurred. They are with family members, and that was important for us to make that, to make sure that they were okay. Forensics processed the crime scene. All 3 individuals have been transported to the medical examiner's office. Autopsies are going on as we speak. There has been evidence, a lot of evidence recovered from inside the residence. Detectives have canvassed the area, interacted. I can't tell you how cooperative that community has been, just providing information, what they saw, what they heard. We'll be checking for ring cameras. That, if you're familiar, that cul-de-sac, there's kind of one way in and one way out. So we'll be canvassing both sides of the street and seeing if anybody's ring camera picked up any type of particular vehicle that may be involved or individuals running from that area, from that residence. We have had some calls at that location before. We looked through there. I wanted to go back over those and just to make sure I've got those right. 7 calls for service over an extended time frame besides last night. 2 calls of public assistance, 2 calls of stolen vehicle, disorderly conduct, possible suicide, and then an individual with some breathing difficulty is what we had. And I just wanted to share that with you, before just going into like a snapshot of time. That does not, of course, include the call that we had last night. So we've been there, talked to several residents, asking if they heard anything, saw anything. They've been very, very cooperative. That is a good, strong community. It's a good, strong neighborhood. And just being transparent, the forensic technicians that process the crime scene, you can imagine, with 3 individuals deceased. I worry about our forensic technicians and things that they're exposed to, as well as officers walking through the door. We talk all the time. We don't know what we're going to see when we cross that threshold. But the officers did an amazing job. Detectives have been here through the night, through the morning. I just went down and checked on them and made sure that the Chief Creswell and the lieutenant made sure that those detectives are okay, but they are working hard, and they're going to stay with information they have coming in. So I just wanted to share a little bit with you of what we had at this point. I would like to share more. I just can't right now until the next phase for us is to follow up leads that we have, finish some of the interviews that we have here going on, and then to make next of kin notification to family members. That's important. We owe them that. So I'll take a few questions, but again, just remember, we're not even 12 hours into this, and my intent was just to share with you a little bit about what we had at this point and some next steps that we're doing.
Chief, was the woman that was found there the woman who lives there?
Yes.
Is she considered a suspect?
So right now, we're just trying to figure out exactly what occurred in that. I want to make sure that she's okay. You can imagine a situation like that inside the residence, that we're going to talk to her and make sure she's okay, and make sure that we can validate, just like we would in any case, statements and information we get to make sure does that line up with what we have forensically. So right now she's just being wanted to make sure she was okay, and we're just having some conversations with her.
Is there any reason to believe that she is in cahoots with the shooters?
So again, that would go into her interview. I think that we have to look at that in the entirety. I can tell you it does not appear that there was any forced entry made into the residence. But what does that mean, right? And so that's a conversation that we need to have. It's certainly a question I will be wanting to hear the answer to. Do you know the individuals, or did you know the individuals, or how long had you known them? So those are conversations that are going on as we speak.
Where is she now?
Right now, I can tell you that we have talked to her, and I think we'll leave it at that, if that's okay.
Was she taken to the hospital?
No, she was not injured, except rattled, right? Right now, she's okay, but I don't want to get into where her whereabouts are right now.
The fact that she was rattled suggests that she did not know what was about to transpire?
Well, I would suggest, and I don't want to be in anyone's mind, but anyone that has 3 individuals that suffer gunshots, wounds, and are killed inside a residence, I think that would rattle anyone. So I need to make sure that she's okay.
Is she considered a suspect in this at all?
She's considered a person that we just wanted to get some information from, to hear what she had to say. We have to look at the totality. There's a lot of, I want to look at that forensics evidence. I want to see what comes back from the autopsies. Those are both going on right now as we speak, and then line those things up. And I'm sure that there will be a follow-up questions. I talked to the Commonwealth Attorney this morning, offered any help whatsoever. So that was a really good conversation. As soon as on the way in, I was talking to him on the phone. So we'll put all those things. We'll work with our Commonwealth Attorney that will give us some guidance on some questions and follow-up questions, but there will be follow-up interviews. We needed to talk to her, but I want to make sure that she's okay.
We have someone that told us that they saw her talking with investigators this morning. Has she been formally questioned about what she knows and when she knew it, and did she know the people who did the shooting?
So let's go back through that. We were able to remove her and get her safe out of the residence. Officers did an amazing job when they responded and crossed that threshold, not knowing what they were going to run into, to locate her and get her out safely. She did talk to us right as we brought her outside, and then we did bring her here and interview her here and talk to her about circumstances that happened. I'm not going to do anything to jeopardize or hurt the case. I can't go into her statements at this point. I'm sure there will be follow-up questions, but we needed to talk to her as quickly as possible to see what, if any, information that she had.
But is it fair to say with her initial statements to you, you did not immediately go out and seek charges?
Charges for her?
Yeah.
Well, I
That she did not incriminate herself with what she was saying and what she knew and who these people were.
So I think that if we had something like that, if someone came in and admitted to taking the lives of 3 people, that they wouldn't be walking away from here. Our Commonwealth Attorney would be here with us escorting someone to jail. So what we needed to do at this point is try to determine, right? So it's like a big puzzle, right? And none of the officers and the investigators, the detectives, forensic technicians were there when this incident happened. So what we want to do is piece all that forensics information together. We want to talk to her. What do we have? How does that play out? What are the time frames? What are other individuals in the neighborhood saying or might be saying? And how does that all fit? So all those things have to come together. I will share with you. We have already had conversations with our federal partners that have offered any help and any assistance whatsoever. We'll probably be taking up them on those offers. We have a great relationship there. I talked to the mayor. He was the second phone call I made this morning after talking to our city manager, just to share with him where we were at. We've had several conversations. He's been very, very supportive, and I'm keeping him updated as we go through. The point of me talking to you today is just kind of, at this point, early on, I would love to be able to tell you more, but I just wanted to share with you what we have at this point, where we're at, and what are some of the next steps going forward.
One question about the man, her husband. Her husband, where was he? He was not there, I presume. What can you tell us about him? Have you had conversations with him? And is he the biological father of the 3 children that were inside?
So I don't want to get into any family dynamics right now. We have talked to her. There are other individuals that we are going to be talking with, but I don't want to get into any family dynamics and locations where people are at right now for obvious reasons until those investigators have a chance to have those conversations. Yes, ma'am?
Yeah, Chief, I just wanted to give you the opportunity to say something about the well-being of your people. You know, you kind of touched on it a little bit, but walking into that sort of scene, that's got to be a really tough one for your folks.
So I will tell you, I think more prevalent today than ever before. Health and wellness is important to me and important to this profession. The men and women who do this job, calls that they get, and they walk into to a residence, a location, you never know what you're going to see, right? We get a call about shots fired inside a residence, and you walk in and you're presented. I could not be more impressed with how well they cleared that residence to make sure that everyone was okay, check the individuals there. We're able to get an individual out, get her to safety, right, to bring her down so we could talk to her and figure out what had happened. But probably 4 or 5 times now I've had conversations with Chief Creswell, who's out there with me this morning, Chief Hires, that we're going to be keeping an eye on those detectives. I will tell you, in this profession, when you have a heart for this job and a heart for service, people do not want to leave until they see this thing through. I know when we finish here, there will be detectives and forensic technicians that we will have to order to go home and get some sleep, because that's how they committed are to this job in this city. They care, they matter, and I see that. I was just down there, and I see the 3 different things that are going on, and I worry about them. But they're professionals. They did an outstanding job. I could not be more impressed with the detectives, the officers that responded, the crime scene, and talking to the residents there. I had 2 or 3 citizens call me and just talk to me already about how the officers treated them when they came up and knock at the door, and, you know, sorry to bother you, but hey, this has happened, and we'd like to know if you know anything. Here's our card, by the way, if you can think of anything. So I think that's important. But we do have a violent crime that occurred. I want to stress that this is not just a random act. This is not just someone that's running around and selected a house and broke in a door and something tragic happened. You know, I haven't been asked yet, so I'll just share with you. One of the things for me is, what is our motive here? What are we looking at? I can tell you that there are narcotics located in the residence. I believe this is going to be surrounding. When we get to the bottom of everything, I think we're going to have 2 things blended together. I think we're going to have a narcotic situation, and I think we're going to have an argument, and somehow those 2 things blend together. I think that's what we're going to see when this all pans out and pans through. But again, I've got to let the detectives take their time and work their case through and work the course. But I think that's where we're going to be. This is not a random act.
What is the relationship between the woman who lives there and the narcotics?
So that's a key point in the investigation. I can't go into that now. It's certainly some of the conversation we wanted to have. Certainly that's some of the conversation that's going on right now with the detectives and those that are being interviewed. But I don't want to reveal that right now, because all those things play off another, and there are follow-up questions that maybe come back. So I can't go into that right now.
So the 3 men that were found dead, were any of those living in the house?
No, they were not.
And do you know where the husband was? Like where exactly he was?
I think we have a good idea, but I can't put that out right now until that they've shored that up and had those interviews and confirmed it.
But he's been notified, right?
So I right now, as I had come up here, I have not talked to them about the situation with the husband and the other half. First thing for me, of course, the welfare of those children, to make sure that they were safe, that we knew where they were at. We were able to talk to someone who had them. We'll be working with some other entities in our city to make sure that they stay okay. That's a concern to me. And then the officers and then where we're at with leads that we have right now, calls that have come in, some tips that have come in, citizens that have come, reached out to us. Like I said, we're still gonna go back and check ring cameras on both sides of that house to see if there were any particular vehicles that may have come or go in that particular time frame. The officers were there within a minute. It was an outstanding response, and I just could not be more impressed with how they addressed what they were confronted with when they walked through that door.
And I think you've answered this before. Did she know the 3 victims?
So I can't get into that relationship. I can tell you again that there were narcotics found in the residence. I think that this is gonna be, that narcotics and some type of argument are gonna be at the source of what resulted here tonight, or early this morning. But we also remember this. But right now, we have 3 individuals that lost their life. We have 3 victims, 3 families. I will be interested to know a little bit more about each one of them and their families. But some of the things I'm holding back is because, out of due respect, we're gonna talk to those victims' families first. Once the next of kin has been notified, we'll release the information that may clear some things up. But I can't do that right now until I've talked to those families.
Children are with family members? Yes.
Children are with other family members.
The federal agencies, I'm guessing maybe DEA, since we're looking at drugs, and FBI.
That's very accurate.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Just curious.
And
Yes, ma'am.
Can you give a breakdown of three men's ages? You said 30s to 60s.
Yeah, right now, I don't want to do that individually until we have notified all 3, but I can tell you that 30s and then one that's in 30s and 2 that are in their 60s. Ballpark in that area.
When you 2 in the 30s and 2 in the 60s?
One in their 30s and 2 are older, closer into their 60s.
And what kind of narcotics was it?
I think we can say that I think it's fair to say that there was cocaine and marijuana inside the residence. But I'm not going to go into amounts and things further than that.
I know
I
you
just
said
can't.
you're limited in details, but the 3 men, they didn't live in the home. Did they go there for drugs or?
So I think all that's a great question. It's a very fair question. And once we know a little bit more, once those interviewed, but I don't want to put any of that out there until that stuff is confirmed. You'll hear things in the community. That's one of the things. The other we want is the precinct officers who work that area. I want to get some of their feedback about calls that citizens there may talk to them about what they've seen. But all that plays into some of the investigation and the conversations and the interviews that will be made today.
We had heard that all 3 men were shot execution style. Is that correct?
So we're not going to get into, because of forensics, autopsy, the case, Commonwealth attorney interviews. We've been working together for a while. I can't put that out there right now.
But all 3 have been shot.
All 3 did suffer gunshot wounds. All 3 are at the medical examiner's office where the autopsies will be. I know a couple of them are going on right now, but I will try to share that with you later on. But until those interviews are done and forensics is completed, I don't want to put any of that information out on type of injuries or where.
Left field question, is this in all related to any other cases that you've been working? Is this part of a network of people? Is this something that is connected?
Sure.
At noon, I was talking about connecting the dots. Does this connect dots to something else?
So I as a chief, right, I can tell you that right now I don't have any information that ties this particular incident into any other case that we're investigating and working right now. What I can say is I don't believe that someone that would partake in that activity, it may be the very first time that they've taken part. And I mean, that's a violent act, right? 3 individuals that lose their lives, that's a violent act. But I can't draw that line to connect anything just yet. We're not even 12 hours in. In 2 or 3 days, some information that came up. We always do our NIBIN testing, our ballistic testing. Did this ammunition, this shell casing, this firearm, is it linked to others? All those things are done through technology, the ability that we have right here. So when I get some forensics reports later today, probably in the morning, I'll be able to tell if any of that ammunition lines up to any other shooting that we have. But I don't have any information in front of me right now that links this incident to anywhere else. I again want to stress, because I'm sure the citizens of that community are concerned that this is not just just an individual that showed up and a random act. There were some things going on inside and out that ended inside that residence that led to this situation.
Three
Any description
dead,
of the shooter?
she escaped, she's safe, 3 dead. Do we know, based on the evidence, how many left the house on foot or in car?
I think we have a pretty good idea, but I'm not gonna give that out to disrupt anything in the case. There'll be some more interviews that we'll need to corroborate that. I don't want someone to see this interview and say, oh, it must be this number. Individuals we interview, those will be questions that we ask. We wanna make sure that they don't blend the lines there.
Did the 911 call come from inside the house? Like, is she the one who called 911?
The 911 call came from inside the residence.
So she's this homeowner, woman, female?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Can you tell us how many guns were found in the house?
No, I don't want to get into anything recovered. The only thing I can tell you that there was cocaine and marijuana inside the residence.
I wanted to ask, just not giving me suspect information, given of what she said or what you guys know. Do you have a suspect?
So nothing that that's a great question, very fair. Nothing that we can put out concrete right now. They are working on that as we speak. And like I said, I would, in some situations, maybe in a best case scenario, I could have done this interview tomorrow when we had more information, but we had 3 individuals that lost their lives. I think it's important to share that with our citizens and our community, to be as transparent as I can. But there are things going on right now as we speak, in at least in 3 different arenas. So as we'll piece that together, but I at least wanted to share with you just a little bit about what we've had, because that's not the norm.
A question that's been asked is how many guns were in the house? You have said that you don't want to.
So on the care walk, we will probably do that tomorrow. I want to there's a lot of the detectives. It's important to have the detectives out there and officers there, but there's a lot of things, a lot of moving pieces right now that I want to get that together. But that's a community that we certainly will be walking.
And you won't say how many guns. The question was asked, how many guns were found in the house?
My response to that was that I'm not going to talk about any evidence that's recovered. First and foremost, I can tell you that when the officers went in, that's where I got the information from about the Doris cocaine and marijuana in plain view. That's why I believe, as information's come, that we're going to see this surround some type of drug activity or argument with drug activity. But I have not seen a full property inventory, and the forensic technicians won't have that until later today. I will get briefed on this afternoon what was recovered, but don't look for me to release that, because that's all going to be case sensitive to where we're at this point.
Do we think there was more than one shooter, or one shooter?
So we're going to have to go through statements, and forensics evidence will help us determine that. But we'll be looking to put evidence and interviews and all that stuff together. I'd like to hear what some of the residents out there might have heard at the same time.
Have you been able to conduct any interviews or discussions with any potential suspects yet?
So,
Hey, the guy down there at the 7-Eleven, go talk to him.
so what usually happens at you've been at scenes with me before. We'll send detectives out. They'll talk to individuals. Sometimes individuals don't want to talk to us right there. They will wait and call us later. So there will be a lot of other things that play into that. When we roundtable, or what we'll refer to as roundtable, the detectives will sit down with Chief Creswell, the captain, lieutenant, and we'll talk about what we have. You'll hear each detective give a little bit of information that they've recovered or that they have been privy to. And then all of that, right? Remember, we went back when we first started, that it's kind of like a puzzle. You start putting these pieces together. That's where those pieces start coming together, and it lays out a framework of the next steps that we need to go. So I just wanted to spend a little bit of time trying to be as transparent as possible today as I could with you at this time frame. Like I said, we're not even 12 hours in. As soon as we make next of kin notifications, we'll send that information out. But at this point, I want to get back down there and see where we're at with the investigation at this point. I want to hear a little bit about the autopsy, if we've got any results back. And I really need to check on those officers and technicians that were inside that resident. And I want to do a follow-up with those kids.
Chief, you did not need to do this. I know I speak for everyone here when I say thank you very much for sitting down and talking to us and telling us what you can, and we appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Again, I want to be as transparent as we can. I think our citizens, I think we have the relationship with this department that I want to make sure in my respect for the Commonwealth Attorney, the case, the work that the detectives do, that we don't hurt the case at all. But I also think, we have 3 people that are deceased inside a residence, and I can understand community being concerned. I want to stress again that this is, I don't believe in any way, I don't think anyone believes in any way that this was just random. I think that the narcotics is going to be the thing that ties this all together, but we just got to get there and find out what actually occurred and why inside that residence.
Is the community safe from these people who left the house?
I don't think that there's any threat to the individual residents who live there, but any individual in any community that would take the life of someone, let alone 3, inside a residence, that causes me great concern, and that is the #1 priority right now, to get more information, identify who we need to be addressing, and find that individual or individuals. Okay?
One last question on that list of prior incidents. You didn't say what time frame that was.
No, I can send that to you if you want. I just wanted to get a snapshot of what we've had. It's overextended. It's not like in the
5
life.
years or 10 years?
We'll get it.
or-
I don't know, Matt, if you know. 1 year. 1 year.
Okay.
So in review of that, in 1 year, how many calls?
2 for stolen vehicles, 2 for public assist, and that could range from anything. We just need an officer, could be whatever, my argument. 1 for disorderly conduct, 1 for possible suicide, and then 1 for breathing difficulty. And that's kind of standard. Anytime we have an incident, a location, one of the things that we'll look at is past history of the residents. Sometimes calls for service can link to other things.
Do you know how long they lived there?
I don't. It's a fair question. But listen, I'm gonna, all due respect, I'm gonna step back now. I need to go check on where we're at with the case and how the family's doing and the individuals that are processing the crime scene, okay?